I'd like to call to order the Cuyahoga County Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, July the 14th, 2015. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Calling the roll, Mr. Hairston. Here. Ms. Simon. Here. Mr. Greenspan. Here. Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Germana.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Schron.
Here.
Ms. Conwell.
Here.
Mr. Jones.
Here.
Ms. Brown.
Here.
And President Brady.
Here.
There is a quorum.
All right. Is there any public comment related to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. President, Reverend Pinckney Butts would like to address council.
All righty. Good afternoon.
How are you all this evening? I will give you my other information when it's non-agenda time. Right now, I'd like to know, as usual, I'm not understanding how the patrolman's fund and benefits or process is working and who is benefiting, because I'm not seeing it benefiting anybody in any of these communities that I live in. Could somebody give me an answer? Because when I leave here today, I'm not going to hear from any of you all, except with the exception of one person who does every now and then call and check on me. And one of my reasons that I'm concerned is because the sheriff's department is asking for more money for an entity, and the sheriff's department is not doing its job in other areas. And I'm trying to figure out why you're giving them more money for these different organizations when they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing in other areas, and who the patrolman fund really, who it benefits. When I've been coming to you for several months now, since I believe last year before Judge or Council President Conley left, and my matters still are not addressed. So who do the patrolmen protect, and what do they do? I'd like an answer. I don't want to just everybody just stare at me, please. I'd like an answer.
Yes, you know, because we're familiar with you, obviously.
I think that's a detriment to me because I'm not getting any results when I leave the room.
Well, I don't know. That's something that they can take into consideration. We will get back to you and try to try to
It affects my church.
Questions, but this is not a question, and this is
It
not
is. It's a
not
fact.
an exchange, an area where we have an exchange of opinions in the council. People have a few minutes to speak, as you very well know, and we do not get into an exchange. But what we will do, since you're asking questions, is try to have somebody get back to you, and I mean right away.
I'd appreciate that because it's affecting not just my church, but I'm in different organizations. I'm in Black on Black Incorporated, which addresses crime in the Black community. I'm in the United Pastors and Missions, which meets throughout the fall and spring, which is a pastor's organization. I am a paid member of the NAACP. I am in multiple organizations, and all I'm seeing is an escalation of crime coming from the police versus that. And I'm not trying to embarrass you or anything like that. I heard what you said.
I'm not embarrassed.
And I heard what you said also. And if my being here is a detriment, I need to consider that as to why it would be, since I've never been inappropriate in coming.
I think you've been completely appropriate.
Right. I'm just, when you made that joke, I'm trying to figure out what that meant.
Okay, well, I didn't mean to offend you. All right. We have a presentation by David Gilbert, the president and CEO. There are no other, I'm sorry, are there any other
No,
comments?
Mr. President, there are none.
We have a presentation by David Gilbert, president of CEO and Destination Cleveland and Greater Cleveland Sports Commission. We're expecting, I think, an update on the use of the bed tax, right?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I appreciate it. As you mentioned, when last summer, last August, when the additional bed tax was passed, we promised that we would give regular updates as to what we're doing as an organization, and so that really was the primary purpose today. what I was not planning on doing is what we talked about last summer was a lot about the importance of the travel and tourism industry, the number of dollars that are spent, the jobs that it directly funds, the taxes that it produces, the fact that it is a major growth industry. What I really want to focus on today was really over the past 9 or 10 months, what we've been able to do now additionally as an organization and the effect it's having. I did first want to bring up Dan Walsh, who's the chair of our board, who just want to come and lend his support and say a few words prior to the presentation. It's okay.
I just really want to say thank you for the support and excited about the progress Destination Cleveland has made under David's leadership and the team there, but mostly for the county council's support over the years. And really at a special time that David's going to get into with the completion of the hotel before us. And it really is an amazing time where, as I've gotten to know the organization and the opportunities before us here in the region, that we're really just entering the game in the convention business. So all the investments now are to this point. It's an exciting time, thanks to the investment that has been made, where we can now really, I think, see these investments start to really gain a lot of momentum. So a lot of support for David and his team. They've done a great job, and I think there's a bright future for all of us. So thank you for your support.
Thanks, Dan. And I know that there were questions that came up last summer about how our funding is reviewed and so on. And I think just important that Dan was here. We have a really active and engaged board, and I would tell you that they are my bosses, and there is I think very strict oversight as to what we do, what we spend it on, how we spend, and so very, very appreciative of that. Just first, Destination Cleveland as an organization, our job. The bottom line is to grow the travel and tourism economy in Northeast Ohio. And as I mentioned, it supports over 60,000 jobs, and it is now a growth industry. In fact, over the last year, the number of dollars spent in Cuyahoga County on travel and tourism was up about 4.5%, and that's more than twice the national average. And we foresee for a long time that this will be a growth industry. And we want to thank you for supporting that the redirection of the 1.5% of the bed tax last summer. As you may remember, it was dollars that had been set aside by special state statute to pay off the bonds to build the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum. And had this not passed, it would have completely gone away. And it was passed not only by the county, but also by statute, had to be signed off on by the mayor of Cleveland and a majority of the members of the Cuyahoga County Mayors and Managers Association. In fact, we had all but 4 members voted, and every one of those voted in favor. So there was very, 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 very broad support. And what I want to focus on today was what's been done with that. As we talked about a little bit last summer, what this allowed us to do as an organization was get to close to the middle of the pack in terms of funding for convention and visitors bureaus in our peer set. And I didn't bring the former presentations, but it showed that of about 11 peer cities about our size in the Midwest, the Cincinnati's and Detroit's and Milwaukee's and St. Louis and so on, we had the smallest budget of any convention and visitors bureau. And with this addition, it brought us back up to not quite middle of the pack. As we mentioned then, say now, this is first and foremost, whatever we have, our job is to spend it wisely and get the best ROI. So what have we done with those dollars? We were, as we explained before, 25% of those dollars go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, specifically to ensure that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions happen in Cleveland a minimum of every 3 years. And we had it last year. Enormous economic impact for the community, and it, I think that was a great show of something that's great great to keep in Cleveland. Enhance marketing and branding, and I'll get into this a little bit, enhance convention sales and meetings, enhance legibility and wayfinding, seamless visitor information, and enhance convention subsidies, which is very important. Because the way our business works, when you talk about group business, when we talk about filling up the new convention center, we can go out and have a great sales effort, and I'll talk a little bit about how we started to really enhance that. But the competition is so fierce that big groups, they either get space given to them for free, or the larger the group, the more of a subsidy they will look for. Now, we're very judicious and we have formulas on what we would actually give, but it's about an ROI. And sometimes if it's the right group and we pay for $30,000 worth of stuff because it's going to bring $5 million back, it's a good ROI. But we were so vastly outspent by our peer set around the country. We could have the greatest sales effort in the world, but if we're going up against Columbus writes somebody a big check and we don't, or they provide free space and we can't, or whatever it might be, we will not be able to fill that center. And now we're absolutely able to do that much better. And with that bed tax, just a reminder, it wasn't any new taxes. Those dollars would have gone away, but it was bed tax traditionally anywhere in the country is used to advance travel and tourism. And very importantly for us is this community and this county has spent significant amounts of dollars on visitor-related infrastructure, literally billions of dollars between downtown and University Circle, and right here with the county, with the convention center, and with the new hotel, and we believe our job is to maximize those investments. And I can promise you, if you just open up the center in a new hotel, they don't automatically get filled. If our potential customers aren't sold on coming here and why they should come here and us to make it easy for them, those buildings would not be filled. And again, talked about the fact that thankfully this received significant support around the community. So in just the past 9 months, what have we been able to do? One, we continue to make great strides in changing the narrative of Cleveland. And our research has shown that is such an enormous impediment, although the research is also showing it's starting to change, on what people think of when they think of Cleveland. It's an impediment for us to bring leisure visitors here, and an impediment to bring groups here. And we have been able to increase the advertising that we're doing, and it is absolutely showing significant results. We know that because we take metrics of all of our advertising, and also we try to drive people, especially leisure travel, where it's hard to tell. Somebody was walking down the street, conventioneer, the group if they're coming. We know if a group's coming here and how many people, and it's easy to measure that. We know broad research at the end of each year that we do with the state of Ohio, how many visitors from outside of 50 miles or more are coming into Cuyahoga County, not for daily work, but for a leisure or business trip. But day in and day out, it's hard. Someone walking down the street, you don't know if they're a visitor, you don't know if they're a suburbanite coming downtown or wherever they may be in town, or if they're someone traveling here. What we do know is when we do advertising and we drive people to our website or to order information about coming to Greater Cleveland, that has gone up dramatically. And again, this just shows, at least up until May, that the number of visits to our website continues to go up dramatically, directly related to the advertising we're doing. And something very, very important I want to point out, not in the slide, but we led a group of research and we got it funded with 7 other convention and visitors bureaus around the country. We hired a major consulting firm, research firm called Oxford Economics, and they actually have a branch called Tourism Economics. We asked them to do some research, which our thought process, we don't think it had ever been done. And what we wanted to look at was, we know the impact, we always measure, as in travel and tourism, we always measure the impact of travel and tourism based on the dollars spent in a community. So we could say if 60,000 visitors come here, what does that mean? We look with the RNC, we know how many people come, how much spending there is. But the fact is, we know that we found there was an enormous disparity in our research of a visitor and their view of Cleveland before and after a visit. And it's a tremendous spread. People who have not been here versus people who have, their view of our community and even what the word Cleveland means to them is dramatically different. So in our minds, we started thinking, what does that mean for other things? So if a visitor comes here, or in our case, tens and hundreds of thousands of visitors or millions of visitors come here, and their image of our community has changed, what does that mean for more than just the visitor spending? And it was actually, I'll just give you two fascinating facts that came out of this research. One was that about a third of all people who move to a new community anywhere in this country first visited that community as a tourist. That was one. And two, I think it was 31% site selectors. 31% of site selectors, people who choose where to locate a new business, said they first visited that community as a tourist before considering going there. So what we know is, as we bring people here, and we know it changes their image of our community. It's not only about the dollars to spend as a tourist, it's about that it may help grow our population. It may help grow our business here. And we think is much more than any other city in the country, because that disparity between the image of Cleveland from a non-visitor versus a visitor is big a delta as anywhere in the country. And so we think it also really underscores the value of continuing to bring people here beyond just the jobs that in and of itself supports. Continued national recognition, again, with all this advertising, these additional dollars have allowed from our bringing travel writers here, directly rated for the number of travel writers here over the past year, it's accounted for 900 million media impressions and 1,100 articles written on Cleveland. And that's 900 positive articles written on Cleveland as a direct result of travel writers that we have brought to town. And that to us, that was up. We've been able to afford to do that more. We need to bring people here and influencers to see our community. And when they see it, they write amazing things about it. There is an absolute direct correlation. And in fact, this shows, like, you probably have seen a lot of these things that just in this year alone, sort of an astounding number of, whether it's New York Times or LA Times or BuzzFeed or Photos or Travel and Leisure voting Cleveland one of the top visitor destinations in the world. And I will tell you, we don't take credit for all these rankings. A vast majority of these big rankings, we know it just so happens we brought those travel writers to town. And I can tell you, I don't think they would have just written about Cleveland had we sent them a press release or gone and visited them and told them how wonderful. We bring them here and we show them Edgewater Park, or we show them our neighborhoods, or we show them all the great things. They write about it. And it's amazing what has shown up in the national media about our community. Convention sales. This is the effort to bring groups here. And while I say to fill our convention center, we absolutely market the IX Center and other venues, but convention center still is the main hub downtown. If you just look here in green, in 2015, the number of leads is up dramatically. And that is as a result that because of the new funding, we've been able to add new salespeople. And we've been able to focus people on medical and other very specific areas. And our conversion rate is staying the same, meaning for every lead we get, if our lead volume is up 30%, we're bringing 30% more conventions into town. If you look at this graph, this is citywide conventions. A citywide we define as anything with 600 rooms or more, usually using 3 or more hotels. If you look in 2012, we had 7 citywides. This year, we're going to have 15 citywides. This is just one indication. And if you looked at our pipeline back in 2013, we had nothing 4 years out. So here in 2015, 4 years out, we already have 3 citywides. So we are booking business much further down the road. And it's because we've been able to fund a better effort. We had 5 sales staff in places like Columbus had 9 or 10 or 11. They had full-time people in DC, full-time people in Chicago. We didn't. We're now able to start doing that. And we feel confident that, if we are able to match them, not even match, I'm fine with less. But if we're able to come close to what they have in terms of our ability to put forth the effort, we're going to get more people to come here, and it's proving it out. Significantly enhanced visitor experience. By our research, we've shown what are the kinds of things that a visitor says lessens their experience when they come to our community, and thus for the things where they don't have a good experience, they're not going to be saying good things about our community, and they're not going to be coming back. One of the things was, I think I skipped that one, but our legibility and wayfinding. We talked about the signs. In fact, starting this week, I believe, we are going to be putting our first 30 signs in the ground. By the end of this year, we'll have 60 in the ground, and that's just downtown. And then we're also going to start focusing on various visitor-related neighborhoods and ultimately into other suburbs. We're actually working with a number of groups to formulate a sort of an application process so we can make the best use of making sure that all this wayfinding is available. And again, this is based on research. This isn't because we think it's good. This is what our research showed visitors say is missing in our community. Also, little small demonstration projects that enhance the on the ground visitor experience. And it is about connecting our visitors. So one of the things that actually was mentioned last time, and Councilwoman Simon had asked us about this when we were here before, was how do we include all of our Cuyahoga County suburbs? And so actually tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow, a letter is going to go out to every one of our suburban mayors and managers. We actually gave a presentation to them on this about 4 months ago. We've added a new section to our website that will list every one of our suburbs, and they can populate it with narratives about their suburbs, links, photos, so they can keep it up as they want. But again, we felt this was the best way to do it because all of our advertising gets people into this funnel. Go to this website. Go to thisiscleveland.com, and from there you start to funnel out the visitor information and get people to go where they best plan their trip. So we're sending this out, and now over the next month, every one of our suburbs can populate this, and we can drive people there. So ultimately, for us, it is about maintaining the momentum. As we said, this is a growth industry. We are committed to continuing to grow it, to doing it in a collaborative way, and we think now we actually have a little bit more of the ammunition. So one of the other things I just want to do quickly was we also come, and I think some of you know, I actually run two separate organizations, and the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission, which has been around for about 15 years, and then also Destination Cleveland, which I've been doing for about the past 5 years. Completely separate organizations, separate funding, separate staff, separate everything. My salary is just shared evenly between the two, and they're sort of close cousin organizations, but they operate very differently. And instead of asking to come back in another month and give another, I thought it's okay. I'll just give just saving everybody.
Actually, I want to, in the interest of time,
Yeah.
David. Because we're here to talk about the bed tax.
Yeah,
and,
if you, should we do this another time?
I want to give the council, no offense, and I think we're going to see you, hopefully not too long from now anyway, to give a presentation on
RNC.
On the RNC. So, I don't want to cut you off. It's just that we have a regular meeting at 5 o'clock.
Got it.
We have an executive committee before that, and I'd like, if there's any questions by the council to you about the bed tax in particular, or something else they may have on their mind, that they have the opportunity to do
Perfect.
that. Okay?
Yeah, so we'll just reschedule this for another time if that works.
Okay.
Good.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Councilwoman Simon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for considering the suburban appearance or presence on that site. Thank you. There's been at least one person has approached me about the dismal entryway through our Hopkins Airport about our greeters, and I think you've heard that as well, maybe not. So I'm wondering if some of this bed tax money could be used to help upgrade the greeters at the airport. And I know that's City of Cleveland, but is this something we could work with them?
Well, I think
if it's necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard people mention it. I'd say we haven't looked into that specifically. I think what we would do first is sit down with the city. I know they're going through major upgrades to the airport. I don't know, quite frankly, if that area is one of the things that's going to go through a major renovation. But why don't we talk to the city and find out? But I agree. I mean, that's certainly, we're thrilled that the airport is receiving the upgrades. We have, enormous numbers of people coming into town from there. So we will get with the city, and I'll get back to you and let you know what we find out about if, what can be done with that. Sure.
Any questions by the council? Councilwoman.
Council President, thank you. On the increase on this particular slide,
Yeah.
I think we were missing the bottom line, and I'm not sure if that's possible. If you could, underneath citywide.
Yeah, let
There was
me thank you. Let me get there, and then. So the bottom line just shows the number. So where, say in 2015, the graph shows 15, there's actually the number 15 underneath.
Was there not another line on the slide in the PowerPoint? It looked like there was another.
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you.
Sure. And you also have the PowerPoint, so if anybody wanted, we also have it as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Could you just tell us a little bit in general then, refresh us a little bit more in general about where we are with this bed tax, where we've come since since the council decided to redirect the money and how much of it we're talking about? And
So right now, this year, it's expected, I believe, and I may be off by a few percent, I believe that 1% of the bed tax will generate a little bit over $3 million gross. So 3.1 or so. There's a few things I'm thinking of in answer. So 1.5% will be, let's call it 4.5 million, give or to 4.7. Then we give 25% of that to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And there's a portion of that that's taken out to administer and audit and distribute the bed tax. So the net coming back to Destination Cleveland is somewhere a little bit over $3 million. Where our budget was before, so we as an organization, historically, Destination Cleveland has received 3% of the county bed tax. And so let's say that generates a little bit over 10. But we had, over the years, a significant portion of that, close to $3 million, was taken out to fund other projects. About $1.4 million to $1.5 million a year toward Gateway, $1 million to the convention center. There was somewhere around, used to be more, but it was lowered around, I think, $400,000 or so to collect and administer. So the net of what Destination Cleveland spent on marketing, convention sales was about 7. Now it's at probably around 10 to 10.5 in total. And again, we've seen that as just under the midpoint of our peer set in the region.
questions by the committee?
Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to thank you for all the good work you do, and I do agree that perceptions about Cleveland are improving rapidly, both around the country and locally, which is also very important. And my question is if you could send us over a breakdown of how that $10 to $10.5 million is spent, what the components are of that.
Thank you, Cotw. Happy to do that. I'll
Okay.
get that over to you.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions by the council? All right. Okay. Well, David, if you want to, try to close this up with some comments, we're going to have to go into executive committee pretty soon.
No, we could save the sport. We'll just save the sports commission we'll set a separate time, and is that?
That would be okay. I suppose we probably should have started a little bit earlier.
Yeah, it's up to you. It's probably pretty short, but I'll leave it up to you.
How short is it?
5 minutes.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, so what again, we're going to leave it fairly. It's only about 5 slides, and I'll spend less than a minute on each. Let's see. So I think with just want to talk about over the past year what the organization has done. Again, it's a 501c3 organization. We receive some funding from the county, from the city. The majority is raised privately through our board and a couple of fundraisers. What the organization does is working on economic development through attracting and hosting major sporting events. Things like, and I'll talk a little about what we've done over the past year, but the big things like senior games and gay games and U.S. figure skating championships, and we're working with the teams on bids for all-star games and those kinds of things, and a lot of smaller ones as well. What's very different about the model, and this is why it is very different than, although again very complementary to Destination Cleveland, the business model of our sports commission, we become absolutely a leader in the nation in what we host, is we actually help groups run and manage the events that come to town. And I could tell you without exception that next year's U.S. transplant games and the gay games and the senior games and the international children's games and a number of others chose Cleveland, not because of Cleveland, but because the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission can run their event for them. So many of these event owners are not in the event business, they're in their sport business. So we developed a model to be able to help them make their business better. And it has proven to be, while we have to keep up a bigger infrastructure, it has proven to be enormously successful. Because for most other cities, it's purely a sales effort. Come to our city and we have a nice place for you to do your event. Most of the events for us that choose Cleveland over other cities because we have a full complement that can do everything from marketing, communications, ticket sales, event management, transportation. We run it all, and we don't charge them. It's part of when our board raises money for us, they know this is what it's going to make sure that these events choose Cleveland because of what we do and we can make their events more successful. So in our 15-year history, over 160 events that we've been directly responsible for bringing to Cleveland, about $450 million in direct spending. In just the past year, 2014, we had 11 national events, 3 different NCAA championships, gay games, Neocycle, a new event that we started and already for next year has grown rapidly. We had participants from 17 states in the first year. 2015, nine national events. NCAA regional basketball, we brought that here. And we along with the Mid-American Conference ran our Continental Cup. Last weekend, we had 3,300 athletes from 12 different countries, 12 different states, all over Cuyahoga County, spent about $3.5 million. U.S. Masters Swimming Championship, and the list goes on. But we have been ongoing, extremely successful. Just recently, it hasn't been officially announced, but we just signed major junior volleyball association event. It is going to fill every square inch of that new convention center and public hall in January of 2016, 2017, 2018, bringing about 8,500 people here each year. And they're coming here because we are helping them with their event. We were just awarded USA Junior Olympic Fencing Championship. We'll fill up every square inch of the convention center. We have been asked, and we have led the efforts for the NBA All-Star bid, the MLB All-Star bid, and we think we have a real chance at those. And we've done a lot of research over the past year with focus groups, with events rights holders on that full service model. And it has been absolutely affirmed that what we do, and there's only a handful of sports commissions like this in the country that really run people's events for them. This is what the events rights holders want, and it's why they're choosing our community. And we also have gotten more and more, while it's not specifically a part of our mission in terms of youth sports, we've done more and more in terms of using opportunities for youth in Cuyahoga County to enhance events. So one example is our Neocycle event, a big multidiscipline bikes festival headquartered at Edgewater Park. Last year we got some funding, and we actually were able to, through the City of Cleveland Rec Centers, designate 100 kids. We got them free bikes, free helmets, free locks, came down to the event. And so again, we are not a youth organization, but we have a very strong, dedicated initiative to look at every event we have and how can we do youth programming to enhance that event. Or if events bring Olympians in, professional athletes, how can we use that to motivate youth? And that was it. My 5 minutes is up.
Well, thank you, Mr. Gilbert. I'd like to, the request that Councilman Miller made about giving us a breakdown.
Sports Commission as well?
Please, well, no, I was just reiterating.
Got it.
I'd like to have that when it's available.
Great. We'll get it to you in the next week.
Very good.
Perfect.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything? Councilwoman?
Through the chair to Dave, you stated you don't charge this for this city's model for this sports commission. How do you offset that cost?
So our budget is about, thank you, Councilman. Our budget is about 40% publicly funded. I mean, it depends year to year. So we've gotten some economic development grants from the county, from the city through a state license plate program. About 50% is privately raised, largely through our board. We do one big fundraiser and they pay a corporate dues. And then the remainder is we look for opportunities to generate revenue from events that we help with. So, probably offline, I can give you a real interesting example of every event is its own sort of business deal. But what we try to do with these events rights holders, the NCAA or Olympic governing bodies, we try to have them in exchange. We look for ways that they allow us to generate revenue. It might be a little bit of a hotel rebate. It might be a percentage of ticket sales. So we don't charge them. Oftentimes we provide things for them that cost us money, but our goal is to at least break even on the events that we host. And probably every year we will net $75,000 to $100,000 that we'll actually net from sort of being creative in how we can generate revenue from those events.
For this model, this group, this organization that does this service, do you utilize them in other capacity to kind of offset the cost as well?
We don't. I'll give you one exception, but we really don't. In large part, we are our biggest challenge is the staff is stretched. It's a small staff. We have 12 full-time people and we're doing 11 or 12 major national events a year. So fitting in, trying to utilize the services for other local events, we wouldn't be able to service the events that we bring in. But we are actually, and this is part of the model with the RNC of integrating different organizations who have expertise. Our staff has actually set up the whole volunteer model for the RNC. We really are probably the only organization in town that does this for major events. We recruit and run and manage thousands of volunteers for big events. So we've actually set it all up and we're guiding the whole volunteer activities for the RNC. So that is one exception that is being utilized.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you, Council.
We're going to have to move on. Going into executive session. All meetings of the Cuyahoga County Council are open to the public under the Ohio Open Meetings laws. Under that law, council may go into executive session during a meeting for specifically authorized purposes. During executive session, council confers outside of the hearing of the public. Council may not make a decision about any matter in executive session. All decisions are made in public. This afternoon, the council Committee on the Whole will go into executive session to discuss collective bargaining matters. During this time, our live stream will be down, and we ask that those not specifically needed for the executive session remain in council chambers. Council members will convene in the adjacent committee room A and will re-enter the meeting once the executive session has ended. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Moving to executive session, Mr. Hairston? Yes. Ms. Simon? Mr. Greenspan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Schron?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
And President Brady.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, we have the yeas. We will adjourn to the meeting in executive session.